Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome to another episode of According to Wikipedia with your hosts, Bang and Dang, or welcome to whichever one you are here on these, our third ever episode of Wikipedia. Third ever episode, yes.
Why would it be the third?
Because this is the third ever episode. That's kind of how that works. I know last time, if you guys listened to Wikipedia Part 2,
Which you probably didn't.
we spun a wheel and it said Sumer was going to be our next topic. Well, we did about half that article and realized
Holy shit.
none of it made sense, and those words just... Maybe we'll reserve that some other time. So we spun the wheel again, and what do you know? It landed on one of the most popular topics in today's social climate, no pun intended, which is climate change.
Or lack thereof.
And this is a big, long article, according to Wikipedia. And just to let you guys know, there might be a lot of extra commentary by us on this article here, because just skimming through it, you could see that they only present one side of the
And of course.
argument.
Because there's no other side.
I haven't seen a
Rebuttal.
from like any sources other than anything besides saying it's happening. Definitely 100%. It looks like what this article says.
Even though there are more scientists than there are.
Well, there is a section of this article that says disinformation and all that, and it mentions that
There are
that
more.
stuff.
There are more scientists that discredit it than there are that support it.
Well, we'll get there because there's a big long thing about that, and sure, we'll have something to say about that. Climate change, in common usage, it describes global warming, which is the ongoing increase in global average temperature and its effects on Earth's climate system. Climate change, in a broader sense, also includes previous long-term changes to Earth's climate. Okay. Before the 80s, when it was unclear whether the warming effect of increased greenhouse gases were stronger than the cooling effect of airborne particulates and air pollution, scientists used the term inadvertent climate modification to refer to human impacts on the climate. During the 80s, the term global warming and climate change became more common. Though the two terms are sometimes used interchangeably scientifically, global warming refers only to the increased surface warming, while climate change describes the totality of changes to the climate system. They don't say global warming no more, by the way, either.
All right. Now it's just climate change or climate crisis.
Right.
Global warming, used as early as 1975, became the more popular term after NASA climate scientist James Hansen. He used it in his 1988 testimony in the United States Senate. Since the 2000s, climate change has increased its usage. Climate change can also refer more broadly to both human-caused changes or natural changes throughout Earth's history. Various scientists, politicians, and the media now use the terms climate crisis or climate emergency to talk about climate change and global heating instead of global warming.
Don't worry, in 10 years, it'll be something different.
And even the meteorologists, they use like orange, red, and yellow now for their temperatures. It's crazy.
What do you mean? What do you mean? They don't do temperatures?
Yeah, they do temperatures, but they do color with them too now.
Oh, well,
Like they do if it's snowing.
right.
It'll be blue.
Well, they've had those where the map is like red in an area. You know, it's going to be hot as shit.
Yeah, but they used to put red when it was in the upper 80s and 90s. Now they put red when it's 75. Like in Europe right now, it's 75 degrees, 80 degrees, and they're like, oh my goodness. Anyhow,
We already know that these Brits are a little sensitive to temperatures.
damn, they can't have air conditioning.
Well, they can. They just don't for some reason because they're idiots.
I don't think they can.
Why couldn't they?
They can't even watch TV without a license.
Well, that's true, but multiple independent instrumental data sets show that the climate system is warming. The 2011 to 2020 decade warmed to an average of 1.09 degrees Celsius compared to the pre-industrial baseline in 1850 to 1900.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Some of the hottest temperatures ever recorded were in 1700, so get the hell out of here.
Right now, there's a bunch of people flocking to Death Valley, though, because it's supposed to reach like 139 degrees.
144, they said.
Yeah, which is the highest ever.
Supposedly.
Surface temperatures are rising by about 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade, with 2020 reaching a temperature of 1.2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial era. We're Americans. Can we get Fahrenheit here or what?
1.2 Celsius, that would be like 5 degrees. Actually, no, it'd be not even any 5 degrees. It'd be like
1 degree Celsius to Fahrenheit is
yeah. No. Tell me it rose 33 degrees. Get the hell out of here. Yeah, because 0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees. So you're telling me the Earth's surface temperature it rose 33 degrees? Get the frick out of here. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that.
What? It says it's a temperature of 1.2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial, so it's 33 degrees more normal or higher than pre-industrial era.
Get out of here. That's bullshit. I call bullshit on that. Right.
Since 1950, the number of cold days and nights has decreased, and the number of warm days and nights has increased. There was little net warming between the 18th and mid-19th century. Climate information for that period comes from the climate proxies, such as trees and ice cores. Thermometer records begin to provide global coverage around 1850.
It's all been the same since then. Get the hell out of here. Historical patterns of warming and cooling, like the medieval warm period and the Little Ice Age, did not occur at the same time across different regions. Temperatures may have reached as high as those of the late 20th century in a limited set of regions. There have been prehistorical episodes of global warming, such as the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. However, the modern observed rise in temperature and CO2 concentrations has been so rapid that even abrupt geophysical events in Earth's history do not approach current rates. Get out of here.
Sure
CO2 is not bad for the frickin' the air anyhow. That's why you think greenhouses, they pump CO2 into greenhouses. Idiots. Man.
Well, CO2 is what plants
Thrive on.
eat, pretty much.
Get the hell out of here.
Give us O2.
All right.
Evidence of warming from air temperature measurements are reinforced with a wide range of other observations. For example, changes to the natural water cycle have been predicted and observed, such as an increase in the frequency and intensity of heavy precipitation,
That's not true.
melting of snow and land ice, and increased atmospheric humidity.
None of that happened. And matter of fact, the glacier that they were saying was going to start shrinking has actually added ice the past 10 years. So here was your global warming theory.
Flora and fauna are also behaving in a manner consistent with warming. For instance, plants are flowering earlier in the spring. Another key indicator is the cooling of the upper atmosphere, which demonstrates that greenhouse gases are trapping heat near the Earth's surface and prevented it from radiating into space. Regions of the world warm at different rates, of course.
This is the most garbage thing I ever read in my life. The pattern is independent of where greenhouse gases are emitted, because the gases persist long enough to diffuse across the planet. Since the pre-industrial period, the average surface temperature over land regions has increased almost twice as fast as the global average surface temperature. This is because of the larger heat capacity of oceans, and because oceans lose more heat by evaporation. The thermal energy in the global climate system has grown with only brief pauses since at least 1970, and over 90% of this extra energy has been stored in the ocean. The rest has heated the atmosphere, melted ice, and warmed continents, and none of that happened.
The northern hemisphere and the North Pole have warmed much faster than the South Pole and the South Hemisphere. The northern hemisphere not only has much more land, but also more seasonal snow cover and sea ice. As these surfaces flip from reflecting a lot of light to being dark after the ice is melted, they start absorbing more heat. Local black carbon deposits on snow and ice also contribute to Arctic warming. Arctic temperatures are increasing at over twice the rate of the rest of the world. Why? It's colder down there.
Right.
Doesn't even make any sense.
It's not.
Melting of glaciers and ice sheets in the Arctic disrupts ocean circulation, including a weakened Gulf Stream, further changing the climate.
No, that's true. There's no glaciers that are melting. I don't understand this. The climate system experiences various cycles on its own, which can last for years, such as the El Nino Southern Oscillation. Decades or even centuries they can last. Other changes are caused by an imbalance of energy that is external to the climate system, but not always external to Earth. Examples of external forcings include changes in the concentrations of greenhouse gases, solar luminosity, volcanic eruptions, and variations in the Earth's orbit around the sun. To determine the human contribution to climate change, known internal climate variability and natural external forcings need to be ruled out.
Okay. A key approach is to determine unique fingerprints, quote unquote, for all potential causes, then compare these fingerprints with observed patterns of climate change. For example, solar forcing can be ruled out as a major cause, whatever that is. Its fingerprint would be warming in the entire atmosphere. Yet, only the lower atmosphere was warmed, consistent with greenhouse gas forcing. Attribution of recent climate change shows that the main driver is elevated greenhouse gases, with aerosols having a dampening effect.
Oh.
Remember they told you back in the 70s, aerosols are putting a hole in the ozone layer.
Right. There's not going to be an ozone layer by 1990.
All right.
Out of here. Greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases are transparent to sunlight and thus allow it to pass through the atmosphere to heat the Earth's surface. The Earth radiates it as heat, and greenhouse gases absorb a portion of it. This absorption slows the rate at which heat escapes into space, trapping heat near the Earth's surface and warming it over time. Before the Industrial Revolution, naturally occurring amounts of greenhouse gases caused the air near the surface to be about 33 degrees Celsius, which is about 85, 90 degrees. 33 degrees Celsius warmer than it would have been in their absence. Get out of here. Such bullshit. 90 degrees.
They're saying it...
It's 90 degrees warmer. It would be boiling on the Earth. The Earth's surface is only 58 degrees, if that.
It's near the air near the surface.
Right.
What is the average air near the surface temperature?
It's not 90 degrees.
Air near the... What was it called? Air near the surface, near the... Around 57 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
The average temperature on Earth lies somewhere around 57 degrees, according to climate information, blah, blah, blah.
It's bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah, 90 degrees my ass.
Naturally occurring before Industrial Revolution, so before factories and all that
Right.
shit, they're saying that it was 33 degrees Celsius cooler.
No, it's warmer now.
No,
yeah,
I know, cooler before the Industrial Revolution
Right.
came.
While water vapor and clouds are the biggest contributors to the greenhouse effects, they say water vapor is 50% and clouds are 25%. They increase a function of temperature and are therefore feedbacks. On the other hand, concentrations of gases such as CO2, which is 20%, tropospheric ozone, and CFCs and nitrous oxide are not temperature dependent and are therefore external forcings.
Human activity since the Industrial Revolution, mainly extracting and burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, of course they would say that, has increased the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. See, Wikipedia, you're an idiot because your own Wikipedia article on oil says it's a naturally occurring thing. Has nowhere says anything about being a fossil fuel. But their one about climate change says it's a fossil fuel. So get it right, Wikipedia. Idiots.
Until Rockefeller in 1913 said it was.
Yeah, but supposedly those fossil fuels has increased the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, resulting in a radiative imbalance. 2019, the concentrations of CO2 and methane had increased by about 48 to 160%, respectively, since 1750. Okay, when you do cell variances like that, you don't know what you're talking about. Number one. Number two, it's not because cows are farting. No. These CO2 levels are higher than they have been at any time during the last 2 million years. You wouldn't know that anyway.
The Earth's not even 2 million years old. I'm sorry, guys. The Earth's maybe 15,000 years old, and I'm stretching it.
Concentrations of methane are far higher than they were over the last 800,000 years.
Yeah, such lies. I'm sick of reading lies. Misinformation up in
Well, this is according to Wikipedia, man.
I guess so. Global anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions in 2019 were equivalent to 59 billion tons of CO2, which is CO2 is very good for you.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's too much.
CO2 is not good for you at all.
CO2 is great.
No.
We need CO2.
You will literally die.
We need CO2.
No, we need oxygen.
Right.
We breathe CO2.
Right. We need that to create it.
We breathe out CO2.
I'm not saying it's good for you for our consumption. I'm saying it's good for the world.
Well, it's good for plants, yes. Without CO2, plants wouldn't get off oxygen. Without oxygen, we'd be dead.
Exactly. Of these emissions, 75% was CO2, 18% was methane. Methane might be a little problem there. 4% was nitrous.
Methane is go stick your head in a porta potty and breathe it for 45 minutes. You'll probably die, dude.
Right. And 4% was nitrous oxide, which ain't that bad. And 2% was fluorinated gases. How about 85% that is government chemicals? Piece of garbages. Oh, that's not That's not a chemtrail.
Airplanes always leave trails like that
they turn
that
into
are
big
in the
clouds.
sky for 45 hours.
Oh, is that aluminum I taste? CO2. CO2 emissions primarily come from burning fossil fuels. What is a fossil fuel that's getting burnt? I want to know.
Well, supposedly oil.
Get the fuck out of here. CO2 emissions primarily come from burning fossil fuels to provide energy for transport, manufacturing, heating, and electricity. Additional CO2 emissions come from deforestation and industrial processes, which include the CO2 released by the chemical reactions for making cement, steel, aluminum, and fertilizer.
So why don't we just get rid of all that and start building our house out of mud and fucking twigs again?
Methane emissions come from livestock, manure, rice cultivation, landfills, wastewater, and coal mining, as well as oil and gas extraction. Nitrous oxide emissions largely come from the microbial decomposition of fertilizer. Yeah,
you probably shouldn't be breathing that.
That shit does stink.
Despite the contribution of deforestation to greenhouse gas emissions, the Earth's land surface, particularly its forests, remain a significant carbon sink for CO2.
So let's just keep on hiring people to go up to Canada and start these forest fires. Yeah, sure.
A carbon sink is anything natural or otherwise that accumulates and stores some carbon-containing chemical compound.
Right.
So they're storing it. Land surface sink processes such as carbon fixation in the soil and photosynthesis remove about 29% of annual global CO2 emissions. The ocean also serves as a significant carbon sink via a two-step process. First, CO2 dissolves in the surface water. Afterwards, the ocean's overturn in circulation distributes it deep into the ocean's interior, where it accumulates over time as part of the carbon cycle. Over the last 2 decades, the world's oceans have absorbed 20 to 30% of emitted CO2. So 60% is being absorbed.
And plus,
either by the soil and photosynthesis,
right,
or by the ocean.
Wow. Air pollution in the form of aerosols affects the climate on a large scale. Aerosols scatter and absorb solar radiation. From 1961 to 1990, a gradual reduction in amount of sunlight reaching the Earth's surface was observed. This phenomenon is popularly known as the global dimming, and it's attributed to the aerosols produced by dust, pollen, and combustion of biofuels and fossil fuels. Globally, aerosols have been declining since 1990 due to pollution controls, meaning that there are no longer mass greenhouse gas warming as much.
Okay, so let's start spraying a bunch of air freshener and shit.
Right.
See, that was idiots. Maybe they did it on purpose.
Of course it did.
The aerosols were actually stopping the heat coming in. And ever since we stopped doing aerosols so much, what happened?
Global dimming.
Supposedly.
Global dimming. That's what they're trying to do now. Is dim the
supposedly
sun.
Well, we'll just block the sun.
Block the sun out. You idiots.
Aerosols have been also have indirect effects on Earth's radiation budget. Sulfate aerosols, such as act as cloud condensation nuclei and lead to clouds that have more and smaller cloud droplets. These clouds will reflect solar radiation more efficiently than clouds with fewer and larger droplets. They also reduce the growth of raindrops, which makes clouds more reflective to incoming sunlight.
All right. Indirect effects of aerosols are largest uncertainty in radiative forcing. While aerosols typically limit global warming by reflecting sunlight, black carbon and soot that falls on snow or ice can contribute to global warming. Not only does this increase the absorption of sunlight, it also increases melting and sea level rise. Limiting new black carbon deposits in the Arctic could reduce global warming by 0.2 degrees Celsius by 2050. There's no evidence anywhere of any sea level rising. Go to anywhere that there is a fixture in the water, and the water spots would be in the exact same spot. Look at Statue of Liberty. When was that put in there? 19 what?
Late 18s, early 19s at least.
Right. And there's pictures of it there, and a picture of it nowadays, and the water level is the exact same height. Get the piss out of here. And why is all these people buying houses on the beach? Come on. Bill Gates, Obama, all these guys. Greta Thunberg.
Why is the Lake Mead by the Hoover Dam drying up if all the snow's melting faster?
Right. Biden owns a freaking island next to Epstein. Why would he own an island if it's going to be underwater in 10 years? Makes no sense.
Right.
Get the hell out of here. And you people believe this.
Well-
You scoop it all up and buy your electric vehicles. And
Humans changed the Earth's surface mainly to create more agricultural land. Today, agriculture takes up 34% of Earth's land area, while 26% is forest and 30% is uninhabitable, which is glaciers, deserts, etc. The amount of forested
man, dude,
land...
that's a lot. 30% of the Earth is uninhabitable.
Well,
That's crazy.
that's got to be more than that, if
got-
you're not living in the ocean.
right. Right.
Or maybe they're talking about land area. The amount of forested land continues to decrease, which is the main land use change that causes global warming. I think we got a lot of forest land. It's 26% of the Earth.
Well, that's why they're trying to get rid of it. There's setting forest fires everywhere.
Deforestation releases CO2 contained in trees when they are destroyed, and plus it prevents those trees from absorbing more.
Obviously.
The main causes of deforestation are permanent land use change from forest to agricultural land, producing products such as beef and palm oil.
Get out of here.
Sure. 27% of that, they say. Logging to produce forest projects, 26%, or products, 26%. Short-term shifting cultivation, which is 24%, and wildfires at 23%.
And which they don't tell you either. When they log or anything like that, they have to plant, for every tree, they have to plant a tree.
Well, they don't have to.
Well, they
Some
do.
logging companies do.
Right. So, piss off. Man, nothing but...
Dude, it's crazy. We've been logging for almost 200 years now, like logging.
Right.
And there's so much freaking forest.
So much.
Dude.
So much.
Michigan logged like crazy in the 1800s. And you go up north, and that's all there is freaking trees.
Yep.
Forests.
Everywhere.
It's crazy.
Even by my place.
All right.
We got the biggest state land there is in the state.
That there is of state land.
Right. The type of vegetation in the region affects the local temperature. It impacts how much of the sunlight gets reflected back into space and how much heat is lost by evaporation. For instance, the change from a dark forest to grassland makes the surface lighter, causing it to reflect more sunlight. Deforestation can also affect temperatures by modifying the release of chemical compounds that influence clouds and by changing wind patterns. No.
That could be true, too, because you've got a forest full of 100-foot tall trees and you chop them down, more wind's getting into the area, for sure.
Yeah, true. And I said the same thing about wind turbines. They're pushing wind around more, and we've been getting stronger storms where they put those up, if you look. Towards middle of the area, all the Gratiot County.
Supposedly, those wind turbines don't operate unless there's wind.
No, they could be a calm day and they do it. I don't know how. Yeah, but ever since they put those in, dude, the last 10 years has been stronger storms. And you can't tell me it's global warming. Because there's no such thing as global warming or climate crisis or climate change. And where are we at here? In tropic and temperate temperatures, in tropic and temperate areas, the net effect to produce significant warming, while at latitudes closer to the poles, a gain of albedo,
Which is sunlight reflected in a space.
right? That leads to a cooling effect there.
Okay, globally, these effects are estimated to have had led to a slight cooling dominated by an increase in surface albedo. According to FAO, forest degradation aggravates the impacts of climate change as it reduces the carbon sequestration abilities of forests. Indeed, among their many benefits, forests have the potential to reduce impact of high temperatures. As the sun is the Earth's primary energy source, changes in incoming sunlight directly affect the climate system. Solar irradiance has been measured directly by satellites, and indirect measurements are available from the early 1600s on. There have been no upward trend in the amount of the sun's energy reaching the Earth. So they're saying less
Supposedly.
sun's energy is reaching the Earth?
Supposedly.
But I thought more
Right.
heat is reaching the Earth. I don't get it.
Explosive volcanic eruptions represent the largest natural forcing over the industrial area. When the eruption is sufficiently strong, with sulfur dioxide reaching the stratosphere, sunlight can be partially blocked for a couple of years. That's true if you had a major blow up.
That one in Iceland a few years ago, that was over the Russian region all over there for
Forever.
a couple of years. Yeah.
The temperature signal lasts about twice as long as well. In the industrial era, volcanic activity has had negligible impacts on global temperature trends. Present-day volcanic CO2 emissions are equivalent to less than 1% of the current anthropogenic CO2 emissions. Physical climate models are unable to reproduce the rapid warming observed in recent decades when taken into account only variations in solar output and volcanic activity. Further evidence of greenhouse gases causing global warming comes from measurements that show a warming of the lower atmosphere, which is the troposphere, coupled with a cooling of the upper atmosphere, which is the stratosphere. If solar variations were responsible for the observed warming, the troposphere and the stratosphere would both warm.
The response of the climate system to an initial forcing is modified by feedbacks, increased by self-reinforcing or positive feedbacks, and reduced by balancing or negative feedbacks. The main reinforcing feedbacks are that water vapor feedback, the ice albedo feedback, and the net effect of clouds. The primary balancing mechanism is radiative cooling, as Earth's surface gives off more heat to space in response to rising temperature. In addition to temperature feedbacks, there are feedbacks in the carbon cycle, such as the fertilizing effect of CO2 on plant growth. Uncertainty over feedbacks is the major reason why different climate models project different magnitudes of warming for a given amount of emissions. Sure, because nobody knows, and they're just
guessing.
Hey, this model says this.
It's all guesses. There's no evidence whatsoever. As air warms, it can hold more moisture.
Clearly.
Water vapor, as a potent greenhouse gas, holds heat in the atmosphere.
What are these climate change people are like? Everything is considered a greenhouse gas, just like in California, everything is considered to cause cancer.
Right, everything. Crazy. If cloud cover increases, more sunlight will be reflected back into space, cooling the planet. If clouds become higher and thinner, they act as an insulator, reflecting heat from below back downwards and warming the planet. Yeah.
What kind of clouds do chemtrails create?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, higher and thinner.
Higher.
Which would reflect the heat back to the planet.
I mean, they gotta... The effect of clouds is the largest source of feedback uncertainty. Another major feedback is the reduction of snow cover and sea ice in the Arctic, which has not reduced at all, which reduces the reflectivity of the Earth's surface. More of the sun's energy is now absorbed in these regions, contributing to amplifications of Arctic temperature changes.
Arctic amplification is also melting permafrost, which releases methane and CO2 in the atmosphere. Climate change can also use methane releases from wetlands, marine systems, and freshwater systems, so everything. Overall, climate feedbacks are expected to become increasingly positive. Around half of human-caused CO2 emissions have been absorbed by land plants and the oceans. On land, elevated CO2 and an extended growing season have stimulated plant growth. Plant growth. Climate change increases droughts and heat waves that inhibit plant growth, which makes it uncertain whether this carbon sink will continue to grow.
Yeah, so but basically you guys don't know shit. Soils contain large quantities of carbon, and they may release some when they heat up. It says may, it don't say it does. As more CO2 and heat are absorbed by the ocean, it acidifies. Its circulation changes, and phytoplankton takes up less carbon, decreasing the rate at which the ocean absorbs atmospheric carbon. Overall, at higher CO2 concentrations, the Earth will absorb a reduced fraction of our emissions.
Well, a climate model is a representation of the physical, chemical, and biological processes that affect the climate system. Models also include natural processes like changes in the Earth's orbit, historical changes in the sun's activity, and volcanic forcing. Models are used to estimate the degree of warming future emissions will cause when accounting for the strength of climate feedbacks, or reproduce and predict the circulation of the oceans, the annual cycle of the seasons, and the flows of carbon between the land surface and the atmosphere. The physical realism of models is tested by examining their ability to simulate contemporary or past climates.
Past models have underestimated the rate of Arctic shrinkage and underestimated the rate of precipitation increase. Sea level rise since 1990 was underestimated in older models, but more recent models agree well with observations. In 2017, the United States published National Climate Assessment notes that climate models may still be underestimating or missing relevant feedback processes. Additionally, climate models may be unable to adequately predict short-term regional climatic shifts.
A subset of climate models adds societal factors to a simple physical climate model. These models...
You notice how they can't provide no proof of any of those things that it said. Like sea level rising. Where's the proof? There's not in blue. There's no proof.
Sea ice decline recondensate an area volume due to climate change. It has been melting more in summer than it refreezes in the winter. Global warming caused by greenhouse gas is responsible for the decline in the Arctic sea ice.
And there's still no proof.
They
It's just an article.
say has been accelerated into the early 21st century with a decline rate of 4.7% per decade. It has declined over 50% since the first satellite records.
Get the fuck out of here. Such liars. And no proof. Again, no proof. So, okay, I'm sure they got pictures of the polar caps in the 40s to now. I guarantee you they look exactly the same.
A subset of climate models adds societal factors to a simple physical climate model. These models simulate how population, economic growth, and energy use affect and interact with the physical climate. With this information, these models can produce scenarios of future greenhouse gas emissions. This is then used as an input for physical climate models.
Scenarios or simulate.
Right. Yeah, they're then used they're used as input for physical climate models and carbon cycle models to predict how atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases might change. Depending on the socio-economic scenario and the mitigation scenario, models produce atmospheric CO2 concentrations that widely range between 380 to 1400 parts per, whatever that, ppm, parts per million or something like that.
Yeah. The IPCC Sixth Assessment Report projects that the global warming is very likely to reach 1 to 1.8 degrees Celsius by the late 21st century under the very low GHG emission scenario. In an intermediate scenario, global warming would reach 2.1 degrees Celsius to 3.5 degrees Celsius, and then 3.3 to 5.7 degrees Celsius under the very high GHG emissions. 5.7 degrees Celsius.
40-something degrees.
That's ridiculous. These projections are based on climate models in combinations with observations. The remaining carbon budget is determined by modeling the carbon cycle and the climate sensitivity to greenhouse gases. According to IPCC, global warming can be kept below 1.5 degrees Celsius with a 2/3 chance of emissions after 2018 do not exceed 420 to 570 gigatons of CO2. This corresponds to 10 to 13 years of current emissions. There are high uncertainties about the budget. For instance, it may be 100 gigatons of CO2 smaller due to methane released from permafrost and wetlands.
However, it is clear that fossil fuel resources are too abundant for shortages to be relied on to limit carbon emissions in the 21st century.
Well, it's a good thing we didn't use fossil fuels.
Even though the temperature will need to stay at or above 1.5 degrees Celsius for 20 years to pass the threshold, a temporary rise above this limit also can have severe consequences. According to the World Meteorological Organization, there's a 66% chance. There's a 33% chance. There's a 66% chance that global temperature will rise temporarily above the 1.5 degrees Celsius in the years 2023 to 2027.
I'm sure. The environmental effects of climate change are broad and far-reaching, affecting oceans, ice, and weather. Changes may occur gradually or rapidly. Evidence for these effects comes from studying climate change in the past, from modeling, and from modern observations. Since the 1950s, droughts and heat waves have appeared simultaneously and increasing frequency. Extremely wet or dry events within the monsoon period have increased in India and East Asia. The rainfall rate intensity of hurricanes and typhoons is likely increasing. Not true. And the geographic range likely expanding poleward in response in climate warming. Frequency of tropical cyclones has not increased as a result of climate change. Oh, but the tropical tornadoes, they don't.
Tropical tornadoes?
Or the cyclones, which are hurricanes, I guess.
Yeah.
They don't increase.
Cyclones. Yeah, hurricanes.
Look at that tropical storm that was going towards Hawaii. All it did was get weakened. Shit ain't getting stronger. We have the strongest hurricanes are not even the one in the islands. That wasn't even a strong hurricane. That was just the water. When's the last time?
It was a Category 4.
Yeah, exactly. When's the last time we had Category 5s and all that recorded back in the 1800s and early 1900s all the time?
We just had a Category 5. Ian or whatever that was a couple of years ago in Florida.
Right.
I mean, there's been Category 5s.
That's what I'm saying. Tornadoes ain't getting bigger. They're not getting more widespread.
Well, if you look at it, the biggest stretch of tornadoes is like a 1977 outbreak where there was like literally 500 tornadoes, and we haven't had one that's increased since then.
It went from Texas all the way through Indiana and Ohio.
And Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like the other day when they were like, well, we got tornado warnings in New Jersey. Yeah, you get tornado warnings every fucking year in New Jersey. that one lady was like, "Oh, I've never seen this before." Another guy was like, "Yeah, I've been here for like 25 years. It's a yearly thing." Maybe not to get a tornado. When's the last time New Jersey had a tornado?
3 tornadoes each year in the state.
Exactly.
They have occurred in every month but December and January. The state's most active year was 89 when there were 19 confirmed. Most tornadoes in New Jersey have been weak and short-lived.
Exactly.
Clearly. When was their last one?
3 years.
Their last one was... There was just one on April 21st, or April 1st. Actually, there was
Morris
one July
County,
16th.
An EF0 tornado touched down in Morris County a couple days ago.
Right.
What that means, it was just a little wind, and it went away. The wind was probably 40 mile an hour.
No.
Yeah, EFO
EF0 is...
like 40 mile an hour.
No, it's like 60.
No, I don't think so.
Yes.
Is it?
Because it was an F0 that did over here, demolished trees and knocked the house off its thing.
Yeah, because if I hit like right straight on.
EFU was 65 to 85 mile per hour winds for for a 0.
So 65. We get that in gusts.
Right. Not continuous wind, those.
Right.
Okay. Global sea level is rising as a consequence of glacial melt of the Greenland ice sheets in Antarctica, and thermal expansion. Between 1993 and 2020, the rise increased over time, averaging 3.3 plus 0.3 millimeters per year.
Ask yourself why we're now allowed to go to Antarctica or even fly around Antarctica.
Well, I don't know which way you're going with this, but it sounds like something a flat earther would say.
No, obviously they're doing something there, right? You're not even allowed to even explore it. It's a treaty all the countries signed.
Well, no, they signed a treaty to not go to war on it.
Yeah, or to, I don't even think we're allowed to even go there. Unless you were like with National Geographic or something. You ever watched...
I'm pretty sure there's like hiking and stuff there that you can do. Probably only little certain places. They're not going to let you go to where they're doing their base shit.
Right.
Why would you want to go there? It's so stupid. 45,000 people a year go to Antarctica.
Yeah. Where?
How do I even get there? Well, obviously, you're going to take a boat. Got to go from Buenos Aires, Argentina, or Punta Arenas, Chile.
When can I travel?
Late spring to early fall. October to March. Yeah, dude, why would you want to go to that?
Are there any...
Yeah, they're like expeditions. You don't just
Right.
you can't just go there by yourself and go around. Dude.
Right. They take you.
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 That would be freaking probably beautiful as hell to see, but I'll stay on the ship and we'll go back. That's just dumb, dude.
Are there any spots in Antarctica you can't go? Restricted? Any restricted places in Antarctica?
Well, yeah, every country has their own little slice. If you look at it, right at the top part, they're like all little slices. When they have their little stupid research labs there, supposedly.
Yeah.
Anyways, over the 21st century, the IPCC projects that in a very high emission scenario, the sea level could rise by 61 to 110 centimeters. Increased ocean warmth is undermining and threatening to unplug Antarctic glacier outlets, risking a large melt of the ice sheet and the possibility of a 2-meter sea level rise by 2 meters by 2100 under high emissions. 2 meters, that's 6 feet.
Right.
No. Do you know how many cities would be underwater?
Yeah. 6 feet. Yeah.
How many cities are there that's level on the sea level?
Lots.
Climate change has also led to decades of shrinking
New
and
Orleans
thinning.
under the sea level.
Right. That's why they have those things. What are they called? Levees.
But the levee was dry.
Right. No, it wasn't.
Bye-bye.
Climate change has led to decades of shrinking and thinning of the Arctic sea ice.
It doesn't even happen. Even that little blue thing you give me there, you're not going to give me no evidence. You're going to give me scale models and shit. Get that out of here, man. While ice-free summers are expected to be rare at 1.5 degrees Celsius.
How about this? Real photos of ice melt.
None of those are real photos. I didn't see anything.
They give me ice cubes melting.
I don't see anything.
I want like a before and after.
Right.
Before and after sea ice.
It's not real pictures. I don't think so. Not even the same mountains.
Kind of looks the same.
I don't see anything. That's not even a real picture.
How does any of this proof?
Don't do any nothing. There's no proof. That's not even a real picture either. They don't have nothing. All right. This should be an actual video.
It's just World Economic Forum, though, so.
Well, more scales and draft. Yeah, get out of here, you guys.
Yeah, this is
That's
not
fake.
even real photos.
Yeah, it's fake shit. That was the same thing they tried doing with the other video we watched. It's the same video. Get out of here. See, you guys can't even do real shit. You know damn well if you're trying to prove a point, you're gonna have a shit on camera, nonstop.
All right, Greenland's melting ice sheet in pictures.
It's not real. Okay, that might be. I mean, it's summer. Greenland still gets warm. And it'll get ice again in the winter. I don't understand.
What is this supposed to prove?
It doesn't prove anything.
Oh, there's chunks breaking off. Oh, no. Was that not there before? Show me a before of that.
Right. What was that up there? That glacier. It's got to have a name.
An iceberg floats in Disco Bay in Ilulissat, Greenland.
Oh, it floats. Not going to stay there.
Right. Imagine that floated towards the sea or the shoreline. An Inuit fisherman prepares a net as ice floats behind him. Okay, but you guys aren't proving anything that the ice is melting.
Right. I don't see anything. Once again, they can't prove nothing.
Okay, thanks for wasting my time there, guys. So stupid.
And if there's a house sitting right there, it wasn't no ice there before anyway, because that house has been there for years, it looks like, that picture. Anyway, there's never been no proof. It's only been hypothesis and studies and models and simulations and whatever, man. Piss off. Well, ice-free summers are expected to be rare at 1.5 degrees Celsius degree of warming. They are set to occur once every 3 to 10 years at a warming level of 2%, or 2 degrees Celsius.
Just a half a degree.
Right. Higher atmospheric CO2 concentrations have led to changes in ocean chemistry. An increase in dissolved CO2 is causing oceans to acidify. In addition, oxygen levels are decreasing as oxygen is less soluble in soluble in warmer water. Dead zones in the ocean regions with very little oxygen are expanding as well.
Greater degrees of global warming increase the risk of passing through tipping points, which are thresholds beyond which certain impacts can no longer be avoided, even if temperatures were reduced. An example is the collapse of the West Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets. We just looked at the Greenland ice sheets and nothing happened there.
Nothing.
Where a temperature rise of 1.2 to 2 degrees or 2 degrees Celsius may commit the ice sheets to melt, although the time scale of melt is uncertain and depends on future warming.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, of course, if the frickin' weather, if it does warm by
right,
whatever so many degrees, of course it would melt.
They're not melting right now, but they will.
Some large-scale changes could occur over a short time period, such as shut down of certain ocean currents, like the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation.
Oh my.
Tipping points can also include the irreversible damage to ecosystems like the Amazon rainforest and coral reefs.
Oh, it was a bunch of ifs and hows. Ifs, maybes, and could. Ifs, maybes, and coulds.
Perhaps.
And perhaps. And the long-term effects of climate change in oceans include further ice melt, ocean warming, sea level rise, and ocean acidification. On a timescale of centuries to millennia, the magnitude of climate change will be determined primarily by anthropogenic CO2 emissions. This is due to CO2's long atmospheric lifetime. Oceanic CO2 uptake is slow enough Oceanic CO2 uptake is slow enough that the ocean acidification will continue for hundreds to thousands of years. Yeah, exactly. These emissions are estimated to have prolonged the current interglacial period by at least 100,000 years. Sea level rise will continue over many centuries, with an estimated rise of 2.3 meters per degree Celsius after 2,000 years. 4.5 feet.
6 feet.
4.2 feet, it says.
4.2 feet per Fahrenheit.
Right.
So it'd be 6 feet.
Oh, right.
Or 8 feet.
8 feet, yeah. In 2,000 years. Sorry, guys.
Recent warming has driven many terrestrial and freshwater species poleward and towards higher altitudes. Higher atmospheric CO2 levels and an extended growing season have resulted in global greening. However, heat waves and drought have reduced ecosystem productivity in some regions. The future balance of those opposing effects is unclear. Climate change has contributed to the expansion of drier climate zones, such as the expansion of deserts in the subtropics. The size and speed of global warming is making abrupt changes in ecosystems more likely. Overall, it is expected that climate change will result in the extinction of many species. This is like one big fear article, dude.
Right. That's all it is, because they've not presented no evidence. The oceans have heated more slowly than the land. Where's evidence for that? But plants and animals in the ocean have migrated towards the colder poles faster than species on land. Just as on land, heat waves in the ocean occur more frequently due to climate change, harming a wide range of organisms such as the corals, the kelp, and the seaboids. Ocean acidification makes it harder for marine calcifying organisms such as mussels, barnacles, and corals to produce shells and skeletons. And heat waves are bleached coral reefs. Oh, heat waves have bleached coral reefs.
What does that mean? Like literally bleached them?
Yeah, like killed them, basically. But there's actually...
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Right.
That's a bleached one. It looks like bleach.
But there's actually... They don't show you that that's all came back. That's what happens. It's life. Actually, the coral reef's grown. Man, these people are morons. Harmful algal blooms enhanced by climate change and eutrophication lower oxygen levels. And they disrupt food webs, and they cause great loss of marine life. Coastal ecosystems are under particular stress. Almost half of global wetlands have disappeared due to climate change and other human impacts. Not true, because wetlands are protected.
That doesn't mean anything.
They just don't go away.
Well, if it's due to climate change, like they're saying,
all
then
right.
they would...
So by 2050, we're going to drive on M13 towards Bay City and see if the marshes are gone. I bet they're still there.
Okay, I'm asking specifically for you guys to show me a before and after from 30 years ago of a wetland overhead to now.
Right. It's not
Shouldn't
that
be that
hard to do.
freaking hard to do.
No, not at all.
And there's nowhere to be found.
If it's happening, you should be able to provide us with evidence. Real evidence.
There's none.
Nothing. It's impossible, guys. Show me. Anybody listen to this? Show me the same picture of an area that has lost ice or water. Or has gained water. Because it's not a thing. The beaches are the same beaches.
So what is it? If sea levels rising, wouldn't wetlands be more wet? And why are they disappearing?
Exactly. Because they're lying to you.
The effects of climate change are impacting humans everywhere in the world. Impacts can be observed on all continents, regions, ocean regions. We just tried to observe them.
Right, and I haven't been impacted by it.
Right. With low latitude, less developed areas facing the greatest risk. Continued warming has potentially severe, pervasive, and irreversible impacts for people and ecosystems. The risks are unevenly distributed, but are generally greater for disadvantaged people in developing and in developed countries.
This has been one of the coldest summers we've had. So,
well, I was just thinking the other day, well, actually earlier, because as you can see, my air conditioner is still sitting right there, and I have not hooked one air conditioner up.
it was hot for like, what, a week?
Maybe, right.
Maybe a week and a half.
Right, before 4th of July.
Right. Which is always.
Right.
But usually there's a good stretch where it's 100 degrees for like 2-3 weeks.
Well, usually August. August is usually the hottest month.
And in the winter, remember when we were kids? It was never like negative 15 degrees. You know what I mean? Like now. Now every winter, it's always.
I don't ever remember as a kid us having to
hunker down and buckle up.
Well, not only that,
go outside.
That, or I never remember mom or dad saying, better leave the faucets dripping tonight. It's going to be super cold.
Right.
We never did that, ever. Never once.
No.
The WHO has classified climate change as the greatest threat to global health in the 21st century. Extreme weather leads to injury and loss of life, and crop failures to malnutrition. Various infectious diseases are more easily transmitted in a warmer climate, such as dengue fever and malaria. You're always going to have malaria anyways. Mm-hmm. Young children are most vulnerable to food shortages. Okay. Both children and older people are vulnerable to extreme heat.
Yes.
The World Health Organization has estimated that between 2030 and 2050, climate change would cause around 25 or 250,000 additional deaths per year. Okay.
Get the hell out of here. These people are
Okay.
morons. Once again, more studies, more guessing. They assess deaths from heat exposure in elderly people. increases in diarrhea, malaria, dengue
fever.
dengue, coastal flooding, which never happened, sorry guys, and childhood malnutrition. Well, that's just poor people who are terrible parents. Over 500,000 more adult deaths are projected yearly by 2050 due to reductions in food availability and quality. By 2100, 50% to 75% of the global population may face climate conditions that are life-threatening due to combined effects of extreme heat and humidity. Got news for you guys. Ain't nobody going to be here in the year 2100.
Maybe.
Climate change is affecting food security. It has caused reduction in global yields of maize, wheat, and soybeans between 1981 and 2010. Future warming could further reduce global yields of major crops. Fear porn here, boys.
Crop production will probably be negatively affected in low altitude or low latitude countries, while it affects at northern latitudes may be positive or negative. Up to an additional 183 million people worldwide, particularly those with low incomes, are at risk of hunger as a consequence of these. They already are.
Get the hell out of here.
Climate change also impacts fish populations. Globally, less will be available to be fished. Oh, or could that be from overfishing? Regions dependent on glacier water, regions that are already dry, and small islands that have a higher risk of water stress due to climate change are also affected, apparently.
Really? Economic damages due to climate change may be severe, and there is a chance of disastrous consequences. Once again, guessing. Climate change has likely already increased global economic inequality, and this trend is projected to continue. It is likely already increased, and it's projected to continue. It's likely already increased. Wow. How can it be likely already increased, and then it is projected to continue?
It's projected to continue to be likely.
Most of the severe impacts are expected in sub-Saharan Africa, where most of the local inhabitants are dependent upon natural and agricultural resources, and also Southeast Asia. The World Bank estimates that climate change could drive over 120 million people into poverty by the year 2030.
120 million?
I guess.
How many people are in poverty right now?
More than that.
700 million people. Okay. Number of people in extreme poverty rose by 70 million to more than 700 million people in 2019. And this article says by 2030 it could over 120 million people into poverty. We already have that. Doesn't even make any sense.
Or 120 additional?
Maybe. I doubt it. Could drive over 120 million people into poverty. Maybe more? 120 million more?
That's what I'm guessing.
I don't know. Inequalities based on wealth and social status have worsened due to climate change. Major difficulties in mitigating, adapting, and recovering to climate shocks are faced by marginalized people who have less control over resources. Indigenous people who are subsistent on their land and ecosystems will face endangerment to their wellness and lifestyles due to the climate change.
Doubt it.
I think they're doing all right. An expert elicitation concluded that the role of climate change in armed conflict has been small compared to factors such as socioeconomic inequality and state capabilities.
Okay.
Low-lying islands and coastal communities are threatened by sea level rise, which makes flooding more common.
Does it? And it hasn't. No. That's why people are still buying property on islands, oceanfront property in Arizona, baby. Sometimes land is permanently lost to the sea. When? When is this sometimes? This could lead to statelessness for people in island nations, such as the Maldives and Tuvalu. In some regions, the rise in temperature and humidity may be too severe for humans to adapt to. With worst-case climate change, models project that almost one-third of humanity might live in extremely hot and uninhabitable climates, similar to the climate found in the Sahara. These factors can drive environmental migration, both within and between countries. Most people are expected to be displaced because of sea level rise. Extreme weather and conflict from increased competition over natural resources as well. Climate changes may also increase vulnerability, leading to trapped populations who are not able to move due to a lack of resources. This is just fear-porn garbage, and people just eat it right up like morons.
Well, Wikipedia is going to tell us what we can do. Climate change can be mitigated by reducing the rate at which greenhouse gases are emitted into the atmosphere.
Not true.
And by increasing the rate at which carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere. In order to limit global warming to less than 1.5 degrees Celsius, global greenhouse gas emissions need to be net zero, yeah, right, by 2050 or by 2070 with a 2-degree Celsius target. This requires far-reaching... I thought it was 2030.
Right.
Isn't that what everybody's saying? In 10 years, we're all going to die.
Well, first it was
2020.
2020, 2015, 1999, and on and on and on.
This requires far-reaching systemic changes on an unprecedented scale in energy, land, cities, transport, buildings, and industry. The United Nations Environment Program, with the E at the end, estimates that countries need to triple their pledges under the Paris Agreement within the next decade to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius. An even greater level of reduction is required to meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal.
It's all about money, guys. That's all it is. Money, 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 money. They're not doing nothing. With pledges made under the Paris Agreement as of October 2021, global warming would still have a 66% chance of reaching about 2.7 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. And they're saying a range between 2.2 and 3.2, so they're going to average it off in the middle. Globally, limiting warming to 2 degrees Celsius may result in higher economic benefits than economic costs, whatever. Although there is no single pathway to limit global warming to 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius, most scenarios and strategies see a major increase in the use of renewable energy in combination with increased energy efficiency, measures to generate the needed greenhouse gas reductions. So they want to do more renewable energy, so that means more oil and more natural gas, guys. The way I see that.
Well, not only that, one of the most renewable energies is nuclear, and one of the cleanest energies is nuclear. And how many? Germany shut all their nuclear power plants down already.
And solar is not. Sorry, guys.
Solar, yeah. Have you ever seen a solar farm? Like
Yeah.
the chemicals, whenever one of those panels fuck up,
Yep.
It'd leak into the ground, and
terrible.
Yeah, it's not good.
And there's little wind turbines you guys see. What do you think? There's thousands and thousands of gallons of oil inside of it. You ever seen one catch on fire? Ever seen one melt? To reduce pressures on ecosystems and enhance their carbon sequestration capabilities, changes would also be necessary in agriculture and forestry. Get the hell out of here. Such as preventing deforestation and restoring natural ecosystems by reforestation. Well, quit paying these people to start forest fires everywhere.
Right. Other approaches to mitigating climate change have a higher level of risk. Scenarios that limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius typically project the large-scale use of carbon dioxide removal methods over the 21st century. There are concerns, though, about over-reliance on these technology and environmental impacts.
Yes.
Solar radiation modification, or SRM, is also a possible supplement to deep reductions in emissions.
No.
However, SRM would raise significant ethical and legal issues, and the risks are poorly understood.
Exactly.
What is removal methods that they're trying to claim got going on here?
Killing of the cows and taking away farmland and
deliberate human activities and durability. Context net zero. Blah, blah. What are they? I want to.
Some agricultural and industrial emissions.
Afforestation, reforestation, agricultural practices that sequester carbon in soils, carbon farming, wetland restoration and blue carbon approaches, bioenergy, ocean fertilization, ocean alkalinity enhancement, and direct air capture. Okay.
Whatever. Renewable energy is key to limiting climate change. Fossil fuels accounted for 80% of the world's energy in 2018. The remaining share was split between nuclear power and renewables. And renewable power is oil and natural gas, not hydropower, bioenergy.
Well, hydropower would be, it's water.
Yeah, I guess. Bioenergy, no. Wind and solar, sure. Wind, no. All those are dangerous. And geothermal energy. What the hell is geothermal energy?
Earth's crust, which originates. Damn, they're taking it from the Earth's crust. Yeah, they're taking the energy from the core mantle of the Earth. Okay. Hot springs and shit.
Okay, yeah. That mix is projected to change significantly over the next 30 years. Solar panels and onshore wind are now among the cheapest forms of adding new power generation capacity in many locations. They do not work, and they're, like I said, they're very dangerous. Renewables represented 75% of all new electricity generation installed in 2019. Nearly all solar and all wind. Other forms of clean energy, such as nuclear and hydropower, currently have a larger share of the energy supply. However, their future growth forecasts appear limited in comparison.
I wonder why.
Exactly.
To achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, renewable energy would become the dominant form of electricity generation, rising to 85% or more by 2050 in some scenarios. Investment in coal would be eliminated and coal use nearly phased out by 2050.
Stupid.
Electricity generated from renewable sources would also need to become the main energy source for heating and transport.
Oil and natural gas.
Transport can switch away from internal combustion engine vehicles and towards electric vehicles. Yeah, because look what it takes to make the batteries for those vehicles, guys. And not to mention,
let's dig miles and miles wide holes, and it goes deep for freaking thousands of feet.
Look up
get lithium.
Look up cobalt mines.
Right.
And overseas.
They do more damage than fracking.
That and nearly all those mines, you can't get in.
Nope.
With like a camera or anything. They're armed guards. That's because they're slaves and little kids working those mines. But okay.
Man, what do you think's charging your electric vehicle, guys? Freaking diesel. No, it's charging from my house. Yeah, where's your house getting power from? Oh, from the electric company. Where's the electric company getting power from? Oh, natural gas, diesel,
right,
oil.
And they also say public transit and active transport, which is cycling and walking. That's why they want these 15-minute cities that you keep hearing about.
Yep.
For shipping and flying, low-carbon fuels will reduce emissions. Heating could be increasingly decarbonized with technologies like heat pumps. Okay, guys.
There are obstacles to continued rapid growth of clean energy, including renewables, which is oil and natural gas. For wind and solar, there are environmental and land use concerns for new projects. Exactly. You want to talk about deforestation? Where are you going to put all this shit?
Right.
That's why they're buying up all the farmland already. Wind and solar also produce energy intermittently and with seasonal variability, obviously. Traditionally, hydro dams with reservoirs and conventional power plants have been used when variable energy production is low. Going forward, battery storage can be expanded, energy demand and supply can be matched, and long-distance transmission can smooth variability of renewable outputs. Bioenergy is often not carbon neutral and may have negative consequences for food security.
The growth of nuclear power is constrained by controversy around radioactive waste, nuclear weapon proliferation, and accidents. That happens so often.
Right.
Hydropower growth is limited by the fact that the best sites have been developed and new projects are confronting increased social and environmental concerns. Low-carbon energy improves human health by minimizing climate change. It also has the near-term benefit of reducing air pollution deaths, which were estimated at 7 million annually in 2016. So keep starting fires that smell like plastic and nasty shit.
Yep.
Meeting the Paris.
Let's have a city with freaking 10 to 12 million people in it.
Right.
Morons.
And what do you think these 15-minute cities would be?
Exactly.
They have like 20 million people in them.
Exactly.
Meeting the Paris Agreement goals that limit the warming to 2 degrees Celsius increase could save about 1 million of those lives per year by 2050, whereas limiting it to 1.5 degrees could save millions and simultaneously increase energy security and reduce poverty.
They don't know shit.
Improving air quality also has economic benefits, which may be larger than mitigation costs.
I want to see a climate thing from the 80s. It's going to say all the same stuff. We could be seeing this by 95. We could be seeing this by 2005. By 2005, the temperature could be 1.8 degrees Celsius. Let's get the fuck out of here. Reducing energy demand is another major aspect of reducing emissions. If less energy is needed, there's more flexibility for clean energy development. It also makes it easier to manage the electricity grid and minimize carbon-intensive infrastructure development.
How do you think they reduce energy demand? It's called depopulation.
Yeah. Major increases in energy efficiency investment will be required to achieve climate goals, comparable to the level of investment in renewable energy. Several COVID-19 related changes in Several COVID-19 related changes in energy use patterns, energy efficiency investments, and funding have made forecasts for this decade more difficult and uncertain. What COVID-19 have to do with anything? Supposedly it's a virus.
Well, they're trying to say that energy uses probably went up because more people are at home, blah, 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 blah.
Whatever.
Strategies to reduce energy demand vary by sector. In transport, passengers and freight can switch to more efficient travel modes like what? Such as buses and trains or use electric vehicles. Industrial strategies to reduce energy demand, including improving heating systems and motors, designing less energy-intensive products, and increasing the product lifetimes. Yeah, that's the one main thing right there. Start producing shit like they were in the 40s and 50s.
Right. Why do you think you still drive a freaking car from the 70s?
Either that
80s.
or how many old people have
Old-ass cars.
fridges and stoves and shit from the 50s and 60s.
Can openers and shit.
In the building sector, the focus is on better design of new buildings and higher levels of energy efficiency and retrofitting. The use of technologies like heat pumps can also increase building energy efficiency.
Yeah, but they shut down all the stuff that's actually supposed to help. That security guard or that copper or whatever from Buffalo created that engine that runs on water.
Well, many people have done that.
Right. What happened to him? Supposedly he got shot in a mass shooting at freaking IGA or whatever the store was.
And he was at a pretty decent sized YouTube channel of him documenting it.
And he showed the vehicle running.
All right. Well, look at all these people that's forced biodiesel, they call it, from used cooking oil.
Yep.
There's plenty of people that change their cars over to that.
You can actually drive propane. Propane is a lot cleaner than gasoline. It's expensive to do that, though. Agriculture and forestry face a triple challenge of limiting greenhouse gas emissions, preventing the further conversion of forests to agricultural land, and meeting increases in world food demand. Oh, so let's not grow our food from the ground anymore. We'll just make it in a factory, guys. Mm-hmm. A set of actions could reduce agriculture and forestry-based emissions by 2/3 from 2010 levels. These include reducing growth and demand for food. Yeah, how are you going to do that? And other agricultural products, increasing land productivity, protecting and restoring forests, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions from agricultural production. Exactly. They're telling you right there they need to get rid of farmers.
Or people in general to reduce the demand for food.
Get the hell out of here.
On the demand side, a key component of reducing emissions is shifting people towards plant-based diets.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Eliminating the production of livestock for meat and dairy would eliminate about 3/4 of all emissions from agriculture and other land use. Livestock also occupy 37% of ice-free land area on Earth and consume feed from about 12% of land area used for crops, driving deforestation and land degradation.
No, it doesn't. Fuck out of here.
Steel and cement production are responsible for about 13% of industrial CO2 emissions. In these industries, carbon-intensive materials such as coke and lime play an integral role in the population. Coke, so that reducing CO2 emissions requires research into alternative chemistries. You guys are idiots.
That's so stupid.
Plant-based diets. We're not made to just eat plants. Look at people who are on a strict plant-based diet and they are not healthy once they've been doing it for years.
Terrible.
Steve Jobs is a perfect example.
Terrible.
Dude literally ate nothing but plant-based stuff, and the dude was sick as shit.
God made our body to eat meat. Matter of fact, it even says in the Bible to eat as much meat as you can. Just don't drink their blood, you sick bastard.
Why do you think we have the teeth we have? If we were only meant to eat plants, we wouldn't have incisors or whatever the hell these pointy teeth and shit are called.
One of the most healthiest diets you can ever go on is a carnivore diet. Anything, you eat eggs, sausage, and bacon for breakfast. Eat yourself a pork chop sandwich for lunch or something, and at dinner you have a big old fat steak or chicken, and that's all you eat. And you do that for about 4 or 5 months, and you're supposed to, your brain endorphins get brighter, and you lose weight, and you gain more muscle, and you just feel better. Crazy.
Sounds like somebody's been listening to Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan did
Of course, he's probably on it now.
No, I was reading about it. What was I doing?
Pretty sure Jordan Peterson, all he does is eat meat. He doesn't eat any vegetables or nothing. He said because he was like super sick, and then he started doing just the meat diet, and then he got healthy.
Right. So, I mean, vegetables are good, but they're supposed to be raw. You can go on a raw fruit and veggie diet too, but you ain't supposed to do that for like a week. And you're supposed to at least eat some meat with it as well.
And when they say plant-based diet, they're not talking about just eating vegetables and shit.
No.
They're talking about these plant-based burgers and
soy
stupid
burgers
shit. Yeah, that's dumb.
Other kinds of weird bullshit that they're making meat out of. Who even knows? Fake chicken and just Why would you put anything that was made in your body? Stupidity. Dumb. Natural carbon sinks can be enhanced to sequester significantly larger amounts of CO2 beyond naturally occurring levels. Reforestation and tree planting on non-forest lands are among the most mature sequestration are the most mature sequestration techniques. Sure. Although the latter...
Imagine it to be like sequestered, so sequestration.
Sequestration. Although the latter raises food security concerns. Obviously it does. Don't... Leave the farmers' land alone. Farmers can promote sequestration of carbon in soils through practices such as use of winter cover crops, reducing intensity and frequency of tillage, and using compost and manure as soil amendments. A lot of farmers already use compost and manure anyway, and you have to till your damn shit every year. And what's that have to do with anything? You're releasing more shit into the air or something? In one of its recent publications, the FAO maintains that forest and landscape restoration yields many benefits for climate, including greenhouse gas emissions, I hate this word, sequestration, and reduction.
Okay, well, restoration/recreation of coastal wetlands, prairie plots, and seagrass meadows increases the uptake of carbon into organic matter. When carbon is sequestered into soils and in organic matter such as trees, there is risk of the carbon being re-released into the atmosphere later through changes in land use, fire, or other changes in ecosystems. There's energy production or CO2 intensive heavy industries. Where energy production or CO2 intensive heavy industries continue to produce waste CO2, the gas can be captured and stored instead of released into the atmosphere. Although its current use is limited in scale and expensive, carbon capture and storage. It's only expensive because you guys make it expensive.
Right. No reason.
Carbon capture and storage, or CCS, may be able to play a significant role in limited CO2 emissions by mid-century.
Get the hell out of here. Shut up. This technique in combination with bioenergy can result in a net negative emissions. CO2 is drawn from the atmosphere. It remains highly uncertain whether carbon dioxide removal techniques will be able to play a large role in limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Remains highly uncertain. Idiots. Policy decisions that rely on carbon dioxide removal increase the risk of global warming rising beyond international goals. So basically they're saying, we don't know if this is going to work, and it could be very risky to do it. Try to control CO2 output.
Well, adaptation is the process of adjustment to current or expected changes in climate and its effects. Without additional mitigation, adaptation cannot avert the risk of severe, widespread, and irreversible impacts. More severe climate change requires more transformative adaptation, which can be prohibitively expensive. The capacity and potential for humans to adapt is unevenly distributed across different regions and populations, and developing countries generally have less. First 2 decades of the 21st century saw an increase in adaptive capacity in most low and middle income countries and improved access to basic sanitation and electricity, but progress is slow. Many countries have implemented adaptation policies. However, there is a considerable gap between necessary and available finance. Okay.
If it's so dangerous, everything should be free.
Right. If such a crisis, then why are they charging and paying? And
ridiculous.
We all know money don't mean shit.
Yep. Adaptation to sea level rise consists of avoiding at-risk areas, learning to live with increased flooding and protection. Not a thing anywhere. If that fails, managed retreat may be needed. There are economic barriers for tackling dangerous heat impact. Avoiding strenuous work or having air conditioning is not possible for everybody. In agriculture, adaptation options include a switch to more sustainable diets, diversification, erosion control, and genetic improvements for increased tolerance to a changing climate. Insurance allows for risk sharing, but is often difficult to get for people on lower incomes.
There's a thing. Don't charge them.
Education, migration, and early warning systems can reduce climate vulnerability. Planting mangroves or encouraging other coastal vegetation can buffer storms.
Ecosystems adapt to climate change, a process that can be supported by human intervention. By increasing connectivity between ecosystems, species can migrate to more favorable climate conditions. Species can also be introduced to areas acquiring a favorable climate. Protection and restoration of natural and semi-natural areas helps build resilience, making it easier for ecosystems to adapt. Many of the actions that promote adaptation in ecosystems also help humans adapt via ecosystem-based adaptation. For instance, restoration of natural fire regimes make catastrophic fires less likely and reduces human exposure. Okay.
Giving rivers more space allows for more water storage in the natural system, reducing flood risk. Restored forest acts as a carbon sink. But planting trees in unsuitable regions can exacerbate climate impacts. There are synergies, but also trade-offs between adaptation and mitigation. An example for synergy is increased food productivity, which has large benefits for both adaptation and mitigation. Two examples for trade-offs include: first, the increased use of air conditioning allows people to better cope with heat, but increases energy demand. Second, more compact urban development may lead to reduced emissions for transport and construction, which is good. But at the same time, this kind of urban development may increase the urban heat island effect, leading to higher temperatures and increased exposure of heat to heat-related health risks.
Or people to heat-related health risks, but...
I mean, the more people you pack in a little tiny little city, it's going to be warm there.
Countries that are most vulnerable to climate change have typically been responsible for a small share of global emissions. This raises questions about justice and fairness. Climate change is strongly linked to sustainable development. Limiting global warming makes it easier to achieve sustainable development goals, such as eradicating poverty and reducing inequalities. What does poverty have to do with global warming?
They're idiots.
The connection is recognized in Sustainable Development Goal 13, which is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. The goals on food, clean water, and ecosystem protection have synergies with climate mitigation. The geopolitics of climate change is complex.
Yeah, I guess. It has often been framed as a free rider problem, in which all countries benefit from mitigation done by other countries, but individual countries would lose from switching to a low-carbon economy themselves. This framing has been challenged. For instance, the benefits of a coal phase-out to public health and local environments exceed the cost in almost all regions. Furthermore, net importers of fossil fuels win economically from switching to clean energy, causing net exporters to face stranded assets. Fossil fuels they cannot sell. Well, it's a good thing there's no fossil fuels that they can't sell, because oil and natural gas are renewable energy.
A wide range of policies, regulations, and laws are being used to reduce emissions. As of 2019, carbon pricing covers about 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Carbon can be priced with carbon taxes and emissions trading systems. Direct global fossil fuel subsidies reached $319 billion in 2017 and $5.2 trillion when indirect costs such as air pollution are priced in. Ending these can cause a 28% reduction in global carbon emissions and a 46% reduction in air pollution deaths. We don't know that. Money saved on fossil subsidies could be used to support the transition to clean energy instead. More direct. I'm so tired of. We need money to do this. We need money to do that. You don't need money.
No.
Name one economy in the world that is based off of money meaning something.
Right.
None.
Ridiculous. It's garbage.
More direct methods to reduce greenhouse gases include vehicle efficiency standards, they already are, renewable fuel standards, and air pollution regulations on heavy industry, already are. Several countries require utilities to increase the share of renewables in power production. Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Policy designed through the lens of climate justice tries to address human rights issues and social inequality. For instance, wealthy nations responsible for the largest share of emissions would have to pay poorer countries to adapt. Get the hell out of it. We shouldn't have to pay anything. If it's so bad, the whole world should just get together and do something, right? So bad, but no, you got to make money. 2023 study published in One Earth estimated that the top 21 fossil fuel companies would owe a cumulative climate reparations of $5.4 trillion over a period of 2025 to 2050. What is that? So you take away those 21 fossil fuel companies that they say are fossil fuel, and there would be no companies.
For payments for damage and harm caused by climate change,
Get the hell outta
which may
here.
include debt cancellation. Oh, shit.
Get out of here. So stupid. So stupid. To achieve a just transition, these people would need to be retrained for other jobs. Communities will with many fossil fuel workers would need additional investments. Well, you don't, because whoever's working in oil and natural gas field, they're safe.
Nearly all countries in the world are parties to the 1994 United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or the UNFCCC. The goal of the UNFCCC is to prevent dangerous human interference with climate change, or climate system. As stated in the convention, this requires that greenhouse gas concentrations are stabilized in the atmosphere at a level where ecosystems can adapt naturally to climate change, food production is not threatened, and economic development can be sustained. The UNFCCC does not itself restrict emissions, but rather provides a framework for protocols that do. Global emissions have risen since the UNFCCC was signed. Okay. Its yearly conferences are the stage of global negotiations.
Oh, jeez. Bunch of garbage.
Why have they risen since this thing was put into place?
Because they didn't do shit, just collect money. 1997 Kyoto Protocol extended the UNFCCC and included legally binding commitments for most developed countries to limit their emissions. During the negotiations, the G77, representing developing countries, pushed for a mandate requiring developed countries to take the lead in reducing their emissions, since developed countries contributed most to the accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Per capita emissions were also still relatively low in developing countries, and developing countries would need to emit more to meet their development needs. Get the hell out of here.
The 2009 Copenhagen Accord has been widely portrayed as disappointing because of its low goals and was rejected by poorer nations, including the G77. Associated parties aim to limit the global temperature rise to below 2 degrees Celsius. The accord set the goal of sending $100 billion per year to developing countries for mitigation and adaptation by 2020, and proposed the founding of the Green Climate Fund. As of 2020, only $83.3 billion were delivered. Only in 2023, the target expected to be achieved. 2015, all UN countries negotiated the Paris Agreement, which aims to keep global warming well below 2.0 degrees Celsius and continues an aspiration goal of keeping warming under 1.5 degrees.
Get the hell out of here. Shut up. The agreement replaced the Kyoto Protocol. Unlike Kyoto, new binding emissions targets were set in the Paris Agreement.
No binding
emissions targets were set in the Paris Agreement.
Why?
Instead, a set of procedures was made binding. Countries have to regularly set ever more ambitious goals and reevaluate these goals every 5 years. The Paris Agreement restated that developing countries must be financially supported. No. As of October 2021, 194 states in the European Union have signed the treaty, and 191 states in the EU have ratified or acceded to the agreement.
Well, the 1987 Montreal Protocol, an international agreement to stop emitting ozone-depleting gases, may have been more effective at curbing greenhouse gas emissions than the Kyoto Protocol, specifically designed to do so.
May have again. They had all these years to get information,
right?
And it still says may have.
The 2016 Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol aims to reduce the emissions of hydrofluorocarbons, a group of powerful greenhouse gases which served as a replacement for banned ozone-depleting gases. This made the Montreal Protocol a stronger agreement against climate change.
Sure it did. 2019, United Kingdom Parliament became the first national government to declare a climate emergency. Other countries and jurisdictions followed suit. That very same year, the European Parliament declared a climate and environmental emergency. The European Commission presented its European Green Deal with the goal of making the EU carbon neutral by 2050. Major countries in Asia have made similar pledges. South Korea and Japan have committed to become carbon neutral by 2050 and China by 2060.
They're like, give us 10 more years.
Yeah. The European Commission released its Fit for 55 legislation package, which contains guidelines for the car industry. All new cars in the European market must be zero-emission vehicles from 2035 on. California, you can't even buy a gas vehicle after 2030.
Nope. While India has strong incentives for renewables, it also plans a significant expansion of coal in the country, because the Indians don't care. Vietnam is among very few coal-dependent, fast-developing countries that pledge to phase out unabated coal power by the 2040s or as soon as possible thereafter.
They ain't doing it.
As of 2021, based on information from 48 national climate plans, which represent 40% of the parties to the Paris Agreement, the estimated total greenhouse gas emissions will be 0.5% lower compared to 2010 levels, below the 45% or 25% reduction goals to limit global warming to 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius, respectively.
There it goes again, estimated. Public debate about climate change has been strongly affected by climate change denial and misinformation, which originated in the United States.
Oh, did it?
Sure it did. Now, I bet it originated in the UK and has since spread to other countries, particularly Canada and Australia. The actors behind climate change denial form a well-funded and relatively coordinated coalition of fossil fuel companies. There is no such thing. Oil and natural gas are not fossil fuels. Industry groups, conservative think tanks, and contrarian scientists. Like the tobacco industry, the main strategy of these groups has been to manufacture doubt about scientific data and results. Well, the whole world said tobacco was safe for you. And once everybody found out it wasn't, nobody still said, no, it's good. Everybody said, no, that's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Even though smoking tobacco is supposed to increase your testosterone or some shit. Your libido.
I bet it does.
Nicotine.
Okay. But the tobacco industry, that's a stupid comparison because they have been banned from advertising specifically on TV for literally decades.
Yep.
And I've not seen a poster or a billboard for tobacco in so long.
Nope.
But how many billions do they still make per year?
Yeah. Many who deny, dismiss, or hold unwarranted doubt about the scientific consensus and anthropogenic climate change are labeled as climate change skeptics, which several scientists have noted as a misnomer. There's more scientists that discredit climate change than there are scientists that back it.
Misnomer is a name that is incorrectly or unsuitably applied. Misnomers often arise because something was named long before its correct nature was known. That's a stupid word. Stupid word. Come on, fucking cock. Oh my gosh. There are different variations of climate denial. Some deny that warming takes place at all. Some acknowledge warming but attribute it to natural influences. And some minimize the negative impacts of climate change altogether. Manufacturing uncertainty about the science later developed into a manufactured controversy, which is creating the belief that there is a significant uncertainty about climate change. This whole article has been uncertain.
Right. There's no facts whatsoever. There's not been one fact, undisputed fact that this article has showed us. None. It's all estimations, projections, and hearsay or maybes and others.
Strategies to promote these ideas include criticism of scientific institutions and questioning the motives of individual scientists. An echo chamber of climate denying blogs and media has further fomented a misunderstanding of climate change.
Well, not misunderstanding of it. We're just denying it because it's garbage. Climate change came to international public attention in the late 1980s. Due to media coverage in the early 1990s, people often confuse climate change with other environmental issues like ozone depletion. In popular culture, the climate fiction movie The Day After Tomorrow,
Good movie.
and the Al Gore documentary An Inconvenient Truth,
Oh, this dude's piece of shit.
they both focus on climate change. Significant regional, gender, age, and political differences exist in both public concern for and understanding of climate change.
What does the movie The Day After Tomorrow have to do? Why is this included in here? It's a fake movie.
Right, just like 2012 or...
Any disaster movie?
Yeah. Deep Impact.
Like I just watched Greenland the other day for the second time.
Yeah.
Great movie.
It's a good movie. I mean, get the hell out of here. More highly educated people in some countries, women and younger people, were more likely to see climate change as a serious threat.
Oh, hi. So now they're insinuating people that don't are old men,
Right.
that are stupid.
Right. I will guarantee you the highest educated people in the world deny climate change that aren't Democrats. Or even some are, probably. It's ridiculous.
Well, partisan gaps also exist in many countries, and countries with high CO2 emissions tend to be less concerned. Views on causes of climate change vary widely between countries. Concern has increased over time to the point where in 2021, a majority of citizens in many countries express a high level of worry about climate change. Oh, I wonder why, because the media told them to,
Right.
or view it as a global emergency. Higher levels of worry are associated with stronger public support for policies that address climate change.
Get the hell out of
That's
here.
That's called sheep.
Climate protests demand that political leaders take action to prevent climate change. What can they do?
dare you.
Right. They can take the form of public demonstrations, fossil fuel divestment,
Oh, geez, I didn't even know they were going to bring her up.
lawsuits, and other activities. Prominent demonstrations include the School Strike for Climate. In this initiative, young people across the globe have been protesting since 2018 by skipping school on Fridays, inspired by Swedish teenager Greta Thunberg. Massive civil disobedience actions by the groups like Extinction Rebellion have protested by disrupting roads and public transport.
Yeah, we've seen those videos lately. They're literally getting beat the hell out of.
Litigation is increasingly used as the tool to strengthen climate action from public institutions and companies. Activists also initiate lawsuits which target governments and demand that they take ambitious action on or enforce existing laws on climate change. Lawsuits against fossil fuel companies generally seek compensation for loss and damages.
Scientists in the 19th century, such as Alexander von Humboldt, began to foresee the effects of climate change, did he? In the 1820s, Joseph Fourier, don't call him Führer, proposed the greenhouse effect to explain why Earth's temperature was higher than the sun's energy alone could explain.
Sure.
Earth's atmosphere is transparent to sunlight, so sunlight reaches the surface where it's converted to heat. However, the atmosphere is not transparent to heat radiating from the surface and captures some of that heat, which in turn warms the planet. In 1856, Eunice Newton Foote demonstrated that the warming effect of the sun is greater for air with water vapor than for dry air, and that the effect is even greater with carbon dioxide. She concluded that an atmosphere of that gas would give to our Earth at a high temperature. What? Okay. An atmosphere of that gas would give to our Earth a high temperature.
Nah.
Okay.
Starting in 1859, John Tyndall established that nitrogen and oxygen together totaling 99%.
Shouldn't this have been at the beginning of the article, Wikipedia?
Right. Together totaling a 99% of dry air are transparent to radiated heat. However, water vapor and gases such as methane and carbon dioxide absorb radiated heat and re-radiate that heat into the atmosphere. Tyndall proposed that changes in the concentrations of these gases may have caused climate changes in the past, including ice ages, which there was no such thing as ice ages, guys. Svante Arrhenius noted that water vapor in air continually varied, but the CO2 concentration in air was influenced by long-term geological processes. Warming from increased CO2 levels would increase the amount of water vapor, amplifying warming in a positive feedback loop. 1896, he published the first climate model of its kind, projecting that having CO2 levels could have produced a drop in temperature initiating an ice age.
Sure. He calculated the temperature increase expected from doubling CO2 to be around 5 to 6 degrees Celsius. Other scientists were initially skeptical and believed that the greenhouse effect was saturated so that adding more CO2 would make no difference and that the climate would be self-regulating. Beginning in 1938, Guy Stewart Callender published evidence that climate was warming and CO2 levels were rising, but his calculations met the same objections.
Exactly.
Well, I wonder why they were all objecting it back then, but now everybody's sucking the climate dick.
In the 1950s, Gilbert Plaz, he created a detailed computer model that included different atmospheric layers and the infrared spectrum. This model predicted that increasing CO2 levels would cause warming. Around the same time, Hans Suess found evidence that CO2 levels had been rising, and Roger Revell showed that the oceans would not absorb the increase. The two scientists subsequently helped Charles Keeling to begin a record of continued increase, which has been termed the Keeling curve. Scientists alerted the public, and the dangers were highlighted at James Hansen's 1988 congressional testimony.
Okay, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, set up in 1988 to provide formal advice to the world's governments, spurred interdisciplinary research. As part of the IPCC report, scientists assess that the scientific discussion that takes place in a peer-reviewed journal articles. There's a near-complete scientific consensus that the climate is warming and that this is caused by human activities. As of 2019, agreement in recent literature reached over 99%. No scientific body of national or international standing disagrees with this view.
Of course there is.
Yeah, of national or international standing. So, of course, they're going to have all little yes men on their committees and shit.
Yep.
Consensus has further developed that some form of action should be taken to protect people against the impacts of climate change. National science academies have called on world leaders to cut global emissions. The 2021 IPCC assessment report stated that it is, quote unquote, unequivocal that climate change is caused by humans.
Such bullshit. Garbage. Ridiculous. Not one fact, not one pictures, not one anything. All we got was computer models and suggestions and projections and hypotheses and all this shit. Nothing has produced anything. I encourage you guys to go look at debunking climate change. You'll find a lot more evidence that debunks it than you will find evidence that that supports it. And I'll guarantee you that. And also, all you have to do is read the Bible, because the Bible clearly states God says no human will destroy the earth. So that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. That's all I need to know.
Well, not only that, I can say after 2 hours of reading this article, nothing has convinced me that this is a serious problem, because, yeah, all you got to do is go. Obviously, I already know what we're going to sound like as a bunch of conspiracy theorists type, whatever you want to call us, but look at Dr. Robert Malone on Joe Rogan, or I think that's the guy that does the climate change stuff, and he's proved several times that if you look at throughout history, not only 20 years, you look out hundreds of years, thousands of years, whatever you want to say, there's always an increase and a decrease and an increase and a decrease.
Yes.
And whatever, man.
Yes. It's all naturally occurring. There's nothing that we're doing that's doing anything. Sorry, guys. It don't work that way. And stopping eating meat, it's not going to change anything. Putting less cows on the earth is not going to change anything. Putting less chickens on the earth is not going to change nothing. It's ridiculous. Actually, what may be doing it is the housing of the chickens, of the millions of chickens that you have to keep in the buildings. Let them free roam. Then you don't have to build buildings and have heat and waste more electricity. Garbage. And this electric vehicle bullshit. Junk. Garbage. Your little wind turbines. Stupid. Your little solar panels. Dumb. Also, for the last time, oil and natural gas are not fossil fuel. Renewable energies. Proven fact. Proven. Idiots.
Is it though?
Yes.
Is it though?
Yes, it is.
Is it though?
Yes. The very first time that crude oil was mentioned to be a fossil fuel was by Rockefeller back in 1913.
Non-renewable.
Exactly, which is wrong. Of course, it's from the Department of Energy. Why is oil renewable? It is. No, not millions. No, sorry. Forget what you heard. Oil and gas are actually renewable. I should have wrote down the website that I was reading that broke it all down.
Well, I guess it is renewable if you look at the fossil fuel side of what they claim it to be. Because obviously what we're having now would be turned into oil later on.
They just found in 2016 in Alaska 1.7 trillion barrels of oil underneath a tar pit. So there's no fossil fuels underneath the tar pit. It's impossible. And also, in 2018, they just found, where was it? I think it was somewhere in a granite, underneath the granite rock. They had to dig over a mile in granite, and they struck oil. There's no fossil fuels in granite.
My thing is, if oil is derived from fossil fuels or long dead organisms, like they say, how when you drill, there's just like a river full of freaking oil, dude? That wouldn't happen from... No, I'm sorry. That's why you got to dig so low or so deep for oil.
Exactly.
Because it's hydrocarbons deep in the Earth's mantle.
It gets pressurized, yes. The Athabasca oil sands deposit in northeastern Alberta, Canada is found to be the largest source of petroleum in the world beneath Alberta's tar sands at a depth of 7,200 feet. That's a mile and a half. The world's largest hydrocarbon deposit. The field holds 1.7 trillion barrels of oil, all natural.
And why, for one... Why do they call it natural gas if it's a fossil fuel?
Scientists have been starting to speculate that petroleum can originate from abiotically from minerals at extreme temperature and pressure. The idea is that high temperature and pressure close to the Earth's mantle allow petroleum to form inorganically. Inorganically means renewable by itself, not with fossils. The White Tiger fields off the coast of Vietnam, discovered in the 1970s, became the center of scientific attention as exploration companies drilled for oil a mile into solid granite, deeper than ever before and way below known fossil deposits. They're finding oil. They started producing 338,000 barrels of oil per day. These new non-fossil fields are estimated to hold a further 600 million barrels of oil. Extension to geological investigations by Shell and BP themselves, they presented at a scientific fair thing in New York. They confirmed that the source of newfound oil reserves is not fossil. Get the fuck out of here, people. And them are facts. I wasn't projecting or guessing. Or maybe it's a facts. You can actually look these up and see it for your fucking self. Man, it's so stupid.
As you can see, a really hotly tested, according to Wikipedia, we got going on here today.
I just proved the fossil fuel wrong right there.
My opinion, that whole article was just nothing but a fear porn,
Exactly.
which just proves. I'm sure we'll have this a lot on this, according to Wikipedia show, because we've already stated that Wikipedia leans left hardcore, and pretty much is a government establishment of whatever the media says.
Yep.
And like I said, we'll probably have that a lot moving forward.
Yes, we will. Yes,
With that, we shall end it here. And
we're not saying that we shouldn't try to emit less pollution in the air. No, I mean, we should. We should try.
Well, obviously.
But, geez, getting rid of animals and farms and oil and natural gas and coal is not the solution. Sorry, guys. And getting rid of nuclear plants, no. Sorry. So let's all have all of our electricity on a solar grid and see what happens. 15 people turn the lights on at the same time, they're going down the grid. Look what's happening in California already. They can't even handle fucking 1,000 people with air conditioning on at the same time.
Well, I have a feeling we shall see about that, because it's coming faster than we think, whether we agree with it or not, apparently. But with that, we shall end it, and let us know what you guys think. What side of the climate change argument are you on? bangdangpodcast@gmail.com, or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below and let us know. Have some discussion about this.
And
It's
show
good
us
to
some
discuss
facts.
some things.
If you have it, show us some facts. I would love to see some facts.
Give me some links to some articles or something
I have not seen no
proving
facts.
either way.
Right.
And also go check out Outlaws and Gunslingers, where we're in the middle of the Mafia, the Genovese family we're covering. Wherever you get your podcast, Outlaws and Gunslingers podcast, just look it up there. And then Battles of the American Civil War, where we're about in the middle of 1863 right now, heading to the last big battle of 1863, Chickamauga. And that's wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening to this show, it's on the Bang Dang Network, along with, according to Wikipedia, Monday Night Watch Along, and that's it. Yeah, according to Wikipedia. Oh, wait. We shall decide what we're going to do for next week. Dun, 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 dun. Click to spin the category.
Right.
Right. Human activities.
Oh. Production of climate change.
Human activities. Where are we at?
Oh, wow.
Oh, jeez. Oh, no, this is all about sex and cunnilingus and anal and stuff.
Oh, there is a lot of it.
Well, I guess we're getting sex in next week.
Oh.
What's it going to be? We will cover sexual intercourse.
What's the difference between sex and sexual intercourse?
I think sex has to do with like genders and shit like that. Sexual intercourse. Interesting.
Let's take a look at that.
Sexual intercourse we shall cover next week.
Okay.
And that should be interesting.
I mean, we're going to find some false statements in that one, too. Oh.
Yeah, whatever.
There it is. Damn. Well, we're riding that. We're getting that shit out. Holy shit.
That is a long... Everything from health effects, social effects, the stimulation of it, safe sex, the history of sex.
This might be a
relationships,
two-parter.
religious views, illegal views. Yeah, well, no, it's about the same as. Actually, it might not even be an hour long. It's not really that long.
It'll be an hour.
But yeah, so all right. What I told you guys, whatever Could be very different topics from week to week. We're going from climate change to sexual intercourse. So good stuff. So join us next week on According to Wikipedia.
Hairy bush.
They all had hairy bushes. That was 1892. So with that, I'm surprised it's a guy and a girl, to be honest with you.
All right.
We'll see you next week for reading about sexual intercourse. All right. We'll see you then. This is According to Wikipedia, where all the methods of music enters with.
Bang, dang.